Welcome to this week's session entitled The Bible as a Complete Epic Story. In this session, we'll explore how the Old and New Testament link together to show a complete epic story. We will also look at how an understanding of the Old Testament can help understand the New Testament. So far in our journey together with the 66 books in the library that we call the Bible, we have focused separately on the 39 books of the Old Testament and the 27 books of the New Testament, treating them as separate volumes within one book. In addition, we have briefly introduced several of the books, treating them as individual books, telling a story. In fact, just like a football match is a game of two halves, which is not over till the final whistle, so the Bible is similar. The Old and New Testaments are just two halves of the same story. However, unlike a football match, the final whistle still has not been blown. The story is still continuing. The 66 books within the Old and New Testament, the whole of the Bible, are like jigsaw pieces that individually can tell a story, but it isn't complete until all the pieces are put together. Each of the books are a piece of that jigsaw. However, the Bible tells a story, and as I said before, that story is still growing. We may not have new books of the Bible, but we are still part of the ongoing story, and our lives also make up part of that jigsaw. But more on that next week. The story of John the Baptist is one of those stories, one of those jigsaw pieces, and he needed more of those pieces to help him understand. When he wanted to know if Jesus was the one that they had been waiting for, Jesus used a reference from Isaiah in the Old Testament to answer him. This reference shares what it will look like when God is among us, when God is Emmanuel. Jesus answered John's message saying, "Go back and tell John what you have seen and heard. The blind can see, the lame can walk, those who suffer from dreaded skin diseases are made clean, the deaf can hear, the dead are raised to life, and the good news is preached to the poor." In another example of the jigsaw pieces, earlier in Luke's Gospel, Jesus uses a reference from Isaiah to highlight who he is. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has chosen me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free the oppressed, and announce the time that has come when the Lord will save his people." Jesus then rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. All the people in the synagogue had their eyes fixed on him as he said to them, "This passage of Scripture has come true today, as you heard it being read." Both of these stories, both of these jigsaw pieces from Luke's Gospel, show Jesus using the Old Testament Scripture. Both show Jesus continuing and fulfilling the story that started in the Old Testament. However, these are not just the only times Jesus and others in the New Testament make reference to the Old Testament to explain what is happening. There are also many allusions. The Gospel writers, as well as having many direct references to the Old Testament, as we've seen in Luke's Gospel, which are very clear to notice, also have many allusions which are not as easy to spot. However, due to the synoptic nature of the Gospels, which means they share similar stories, we can look at Matthew, who at times states this was to fulfill what the Scriptures said. Unlike the people at the time, we may not know the Old Testament Scripture in great depth, but we can still notice some of the similarities and allusions. For example, In John's Gospel, Jesus refers to himself as a good shepherd. We may remember the stories of the shepherd in the New Testament, who looks for his lost sheep. In turn, we may then recall similar stories in the Old Testament of God leading his people, such as the Exodus story. Just like a shepherd leads the sheep. Or maybe a more direct link, such as Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." All these links that can be found all add more and more understanding to that one reference to Jesus as a good shepherd. The Good Shepherd was one example. Can you think of any others? What about this one? The feeding of the 5,000 people in the New Testament, when Jesus took just 5 loaves and 2 fish, and God feeding those who have followed Moses into the wilderness in the New Old Testament book, Exodus. Both of these stories link together and share and tell the same story. The story that reminds us that it is God who provides, and that is why Jesus is able to provide for the 5,000 people. What these two stories show us is that by knowing more about the Old Testament stories, we can understand more about the New Testament. For example, throughout the Old Testament, we are reminded that only God can heal and forgive people of their sins. What then are we being led to see and believe when we read stories of Jesus' healing and forgiveness in the New Testament? By knowing more of the story and jigsaw pieces from the Old Testament, we can see that what is being shown is that Jesus is God with us. Emmanuel, as Matthew reminded us at the beginning of his Gospel. Another technique often employed by the writers of the New Testament is to write in a similar style to that found in the Old Testament. What follows are just 2 of many examples. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. This is a quote taken from the beginning of John's Gospel in the New Testament. It has striking similarities to the beginning of Genesis in the Old Testament. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Again, Matthew uses an Old Testament style writing at the beginning of his Gospel in the New Testament. What he gives us is a genealogy, a family tree, of Jesus which stretches right back through to the beginning of the Old Testament. What Matthew and John have done is made their Gospels feel familiar to those who know the Jewish scripture at the time, the Old Testament. In addition, they have shown to their readers that Jesus' story is just a continuation and fulfillment of what can be read throughout the earlier scriptures, which we call the Old Testament. It seems then that trying to understand the Bible and make these connections is a little bit like a riddle. This brings to mind a saying of Winston Churchill, who is reported to have said, not of the Bible, that it is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. This, in my opinion, can easily be said of the Bible. Others have said more specifically about different books of the New Testament that Jesus is the treasure who lies figuratively wrapped in the Old Testament. By looking again at the Old Testament, we can find the treasure that is Jesus and gain a fuller understanding. Again, in the words of Jesus in the Gospels, who refers back to Moses in the Old Testament, said that if you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote about me. Throughout this week's session, I have tried to help you see how the Bible is one continuous epic story. To get a better understanding, we need to explore it and look for the links that help to give us more understanding as we delve deeper into this one continuous epic story. Churchill rightly said that there is a key, and he is true. The key is the whole Bible, both the Old and the New Testament. The story that started in the Old Testament continues and finds fulfillment in the New Testament. But it is not over. We are part of that story. What will your story tell? Thank you for joining me this week as we explored the epic and continuous story that starts in the Old Testament and continued in the New Testament. We have also touched on how our story links with and continues this story. However, we have still only scratched the surface. There is so much more we could say and we could discover together. And I hope that maybe in the near future we will be able to do that. For now, though, I hope that what this session has done is made you look anew and afresh. Next week, join us as we start to explore how God uses broken and messy people to tell that story.